Welcome to the Financial Technology Report, a leading information source on financial technology companies and solutions. In this episode, we speak with Julio Martínez, co-founder and CEO of Abacum, an automated FP&A platform built for mid-market finance teams. Abacum centralizes operational and financial data to support revenue forecasting, scenario modeling, headcount planning, and budget management, while automating reporting for boards, executives, and monthly performance reviews. The platform is used by mid-market organizations to move beyond spreadsheet-based planning and improve decision-making across finance and operations. Julio co-founded Abacum after spending years in investment banking and fintech, including roles at Citigroup and as the founder of multiple financial technology ventures. He leads the company's product and strategy with a focus on building planning tools shaped by firsthand experience inside finance teams. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow. Julio, thanks so much for taking the time. Great to be with you.
It's a blast over here. Thank you so much for having me.
This is going to be a fun conversation because you've had a very interesting career path and as well have a lot of interests. So maybe let's kick off with the secret to making a great paella.
Look, it's been years crafting the perfect paella. I haven't gotten there. I think it's simpler than it sounds. So it's the quality of ingredients is 80% of it. So that's it.
Do you go with the crispy bottom?
Yes, always.
You have to, right? Do you load it up with mariscos or are you like more evenly balanced with the rice?
My favorite is mariscos, a little bit loaded, but not too much. I've turned vegetarian after the years. So now I'm getting more creative with some other approaches to it and how to enhance flavor with veggies only. Yeah, but my favorite for years was marisco only.
So you've had a winding career. And by that, I mean, you've been around the world in different roles. At Citi, I feel like you did a variety of positions. And then I think your interesting stint was kind of doing more, it was like corporate venture capital, right? So to speak, with a big bank in Spain.
Yeah.
What led you ultimately to founding Abacum?
Look, I felt I knew very, very well the problem space we are set to solve here at Abacum. I had spent so many years in finance working with M&A teams, FP&A teams, both at the customer side, also internally in some organizations. I had operational roles in finance as well. So I was a finance nerd. I loved finance. I was a big fan of finance teams. But then after spending 4 years in as you said, corporate venture capital initiative, within that initiative, I co-founded a venture studio. Right. And then it was our job to create fintech ventures and launching them to market. So in that capacity, I was working with, and we had engineering teams, design teams, and marketing teams to take them to market. We raised over 100 million during that period. We had 100 people working in that initiative. So, 4 very successful products, many others that, hey, we call them learnings and we don't talk much about them. So in that context, I felt, hey, I know how to build products today and how to take them to market and how to get this going. But the problem space I know very, very well and where I feel I have an unfair advantage and I'm passionate about is corporate finance FP&A for finance teams, right? So this is the story behind. So what you will find in Abacum actually, and in me, is a very mission-driven founder, right? The classic, I'm building the product I wish I had when I was in the trenches. I'm bleeding in the head.
Mm-hmm. It seems for this tool to be useful, I mean, it should be sold into companies or enterprises of a certain size where that exercise of financial planning is necessary on a frequent basis. What is the target market?
So we do mid-market early enterprise, right? This is our focus there. We don't really believe in SMBs. I used to model without touching the mouse, right? And I felt very proud about it, actually. It's very embarrassing now in retrospect, but that guy, right? So I think spreadsheets have a place in the market. And if you are not facing a certain level of business complexity, you don't really need to overkill it with, it's okay. You don't need it, right? And I think at some point in time, though, business complexity starts creeping in. Data volumes, or complexity, just different legal entities, currencies, but also customer segment, products, geographies, right? And then reporting and planning becomes very complex and messy. And that usually in our experience happens with companies are starting to hit, and it depends on the sector and the country, but say 100 employees, 200 employees, right? At some point in time, in that maybe 20 to 50 million revenue journey, it's almost unbearable for the finance team to do it. And it's highly inefficient to do that in a spreadsheet or in a spreadsheet-based solution, right? Because you're going to face the same level of constraints that you have in the spreadsheet. So then it makes sense for us to come in. And then the beauty of Abacum is that we are highly, highly scalable. So that means that we also work with publicly listed companies in NASDAQ, in the New York Stock Exchange. We work with, CoreWeave, Dish Networks, Sportradar, many more, or fast-growing companies that want to get there. So our customers know that when they start working with us, they can start when their complexity is, painful, but then they can grow with us until they want to go public or beyond. The same applies. We do very traditional, boring, healthy businesses and boring in the most appreciative way as a former investor. So we also do those and bring them to success very fast.
And the company is AI native, is that correct?
Yes.
So you started building this already with AI baked in.
Yes. So when we were going through Y Combinator, and this is back in the day, right? So our early prototype, we launched our early prototype that as any MVP or prototype, hey, had some flaws, right? As you can imagine. And we were targeting very sophisticated companies from the get-go, right? So we never did let's just start easy with SMBs and crawl up. We don't believe in that approach. And actually some companies in our space that did that, they never made it to the proper mid-market. They couldn't ship the product that mattered for companies in the mid-market. They couldn't solve for that complexity. So we started from the get-go with very complex companies, and that is very painful, right? That's painful. In that early MVP, we already had ML algorithms for our customers to forecast more accurately, right? We had from Arriva to Profit to others, already embedded in the platform because my co-founder and I, from the get-go, we saw the potential. Of course, with the advent of LLMs, that is an enhancement for us, right? It's just a matter of, switching what type of algorithm you want to run your platform on. That's one. And second, it's an evolution of an experience that was already based on an AI experience.
I know you recently closed a round with Scale, and congratulations on that. They're a great partner. In the early days, you brought in capital then too, right?
Yes. So we've raised over 100 million of capital, so strong balance sheet to continue investing very heavily on product and obviously go-to-market efforts.
Can you give us a sense for the scale of the business today?
Yeah, so we are around 150 people. And then revenue numbers that you would expect around a CDC company.
Excellent. I imagine you're just in early days. You have a lot more runway given the size of the market.
Yes. In terms of runway, yes. So extensive runway ahead of us.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about your focus and, maybe the time spent on meditation. How has it played a role in your life and maybe in your position as a CEO of a company?
I started with meditation in 2007 more seriously. So it's been a number of years. I think it's a deeply transformational journey for you as a human being. And over the years, I've been increasing my meditation practice, right? I think I'm a high energy individual. So it really helps me to stay more balanced. I don't think people can tell I meditate, but I remind them. So imagine if I didn't, if you feel I'm high intensity, already. So imagine. So to me, meditation is the shortcut to find happiness in your life, right? To stay grounded and focus on what matters, to try to stay in the present and stay grateful. So so to me, it's absolutely critical.
Now, what's the ultimate vision for the company? Where do you see it in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think Abacum has the potential to grow extremely big, right? The market is huge. And then we've seen very remarkable listed companies in FP&A and in the office of the CFO. So naturally, I'm a big fan of Anaplan or OneStream or some other iconic companies, Bill.com, that have gone public. And that's naturally an aspiration of this team. That's probably a very remarkable dream and goal that we have. And it's not going public per se, but staying independent and growing a formidable generational business for the long term. So I think like IPO is just a milestone in that journey, right? That is usually very iconic and represents something and tells a story. But really the story that is telling is how do we help every freaking finance team out there and automate their manual tasks and put them in the driver's seat with a higher capacity to surface insights, influence decision-making in their companies, and stay super relevant, becoming the right hand of the CEO and a trusted advisor of the board of directors. And then doing that for every company out there in the mid-market and in the early enterprise, we have hands down the best product for our ICP. For our ICP, I think there is consensus in the market, like we are leading the pack and we are heavily investing in products. So those modes are just going to increase as we continue investing aggressively in the asset, in our product. So like there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to support so many companies out there and finance teams to fulfill their own missions in a better way. We think of ourselves as a very powerful enabler. We help other companies achieve their missions faster and better, and we make the finance team the hero in those organizations. So so the ultimate goal here is to, obviously generate a very big outcome in terms of customer value.
Are there certain sectors where you find that you've been able to kind of market to more effectively than others?
Yeah, we are sector agnostic. So definitely tech, we do a lot as you would expect, right? So B2C, B2B, fintech, mobility, life sciences. And then also we do healthcare, education, nonprofit, construction. So other industries that are not tech-enabled.
How was the transition going from corporate venture capital, and before that you were in more traditional investment banking, to becoming a founder CEO? Because that could be a pretty dramatic change in kind of what you did day to day in corporate VC versus founding a company.
That's a great point, actually. So look, it was a relatively smooth transition. Now that I think of it, I never thought of it that way. From a day-to-day perspective, I think it was a very happy transition, right? I think what I liked the most when I was in corporate VC or in corporate venture building was the craft of building, right? And maybe a bit less the job that they had to do sometimes of, making sure that the stakeholders that were funding the venture were happy and were informed and so on, right? Which is a very important part of what you have to do, right? And they hold you accountable and pressure is high. So it was fine. But then what I felt, I was in my happy place was when I was like really working with the teams and feeling I had an impact in customers or like the magic of building, right? Like, so all of a sudden I was a founder, and then most of your time, especially in the early days, you spend, you're just doing that, right? Like just building, 24/7. And we launched the first week of COVID in lockdown. So I was locked down in my place with 3 kids and a very patient wife, working, around the clock in a small apartment. So it was very intense, but I remember that transition being very happy, right? Just doing what I wanted to do, like with a very clear mission, with a very clear purpose, working extremely hard to just build the product that we wish we had and that we knew finance teams were gonna love. So that transition was very smooth, actually. Now that I think of it, it was moving towards happiness. Obviously, the level of obsession that you develop, I was already very obsessive. I'm not sure if it's a common trait. Definitely it's a trait that I'm high intensity, very obsessive. I think many founders, but many operators as well, many bankers, many consultants, many people with these traits are everywhere. Obviously, when you have those traits so ingrained in you, and then you become a founder, you only accentuate them, you only enhance them.
Right.
So it's been a journey, right? Also, obviously, as a founder, when you are so obsessed, and then the learning there is, and meditation helps naturally, is so don't obsess with the results, right? Don't obsess with the outcome, obsess with inputs, with what you control, and enjoy that process as much as possible, which I sometimes forget.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you didn't pivot with the product much. You knew exactly from the beginning.
We didn't pivot anything. So we knew from the beginning. So we are just executing the same roadmap. I mean, obviously at a higher level that we set out to do in our initial slides, where we didn't have even an engineer. So we are just executing on that. I think along the journey, of course, the secret sauce is in the countless thousands of micro product decisions that you need to make. But at the conceptual level, like we knew FP&A is a software category that has existed since the 80s, right? Even 70s, maybe TM1 and Hyperion and all this. You have software in that space that is 50 years old, right? And 25 years old. And from a category perspective, we are not reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We are just doing what it's supposed to be done in an era where, you are AI native. Some of these guys were not even cloud native, right? So Planful, Adaptive, like some of these guys, 2001, 2003, found it like cloud or smartphones were not even a thing.
Right.
Imagine AI, so we are just doing this 30 times better.
Right. How would you describe your leadership style?
High charging, extremely hands-on and detail-oriented. High intensity, but with care, with genuine care for people and their development and their personal and professional growth.
Excellent. We're coming up on time. I have two final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I'm going to go for my dad on this one. He passed away 7 months ago.
Oh, sorry to hear.
No, totally fine. So, but that's a reality. And in the last 7 months, I've been realizing more and more how profoundly influential he was in my life. And I sort of knew. Many of us sort of know, right? That shouldn't be a surprise. But I'm finding myself now, I have 3 kids, finding myself seeing the pervasive influence that he had in my life and how I'm educating and bringing up and teaching my kids, but also even in the business, or he had a powerful influence there in terms of, ambition, but always be good people, values first, and bring joy in everything you do. He was a very happy man, so very influential.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity cause or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
So something that many people don't know is that I lived a year in India collaborating with 2 NGOs that did microfinance. And that was back in the day when Mohammed Yunus won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for Grameen Bank, which is obviously an amazing work. And microfinance was already very grown in, not only Bangladesh, but also India and many other places, including LATAM. So I've always been a big fan of, microfinance in general. I actually worked briefly in the World Bank in their microfinance team, which was a blast and a dream for me. I just had to move faster than maybe what a multilateral institution, so that wasn't my environment, but I felt deeply fulfilled by the mission. So I've always been very interested in development and particularly specifically around microfinance. So I'm still, obviously informally collaborating or doing what I can on some of those causes.
Julio, I want to thank you again for taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. Thank you.